Pumpkins, apples, sweet potatoes, there are a lot of fall foods that can be great to share with your dog, but there are also plenty that you should avoid. And so we're going to go through the do's and the don'ts of sharing food with your dog this fall.
And while the fall is a time for eating and feasting, it's also a time for gathering with friends and family that you may not normally spend a lot of time with. So one of the things to keep in mind is that if you have dogs, you want to make sure that you talk to your guests and make sure that they know what they should and shouldn't give them. So you can educate them on obviously the do's and the don'ts that we're going to talk about. But my go-to tip is to have a bowl of fun seasonal treats that are okay for kids and adults alike to give to your pets if they do something fun or cute or just because.
And for a lot of dogs, mine included, fruit and vegetables are a normal kind of thing. And so when fall comes along, there's a lot of apples and applesauce and all of that. And those are actually great things. So let's start with some positives, which is apples are wonderful. I actually brought one down, my favorite, Honeycrisp. And my dogs love this, but the thing to be careful of is the core and the seeds can have some poisonous traits to them. There's arsenic, there's things in there that aren't good. So you can give them pieces of your apple with the skin and all, but don't give them the core or the seed. And specific to the applesauce piece, for my dogs, they love it, but you have to make sure that it's all natural. No added sugars or anything like that. It should just be apples. That should be the ingredients. Apples and maybe water. Let's see what's in your ingredients. Organic apples and absorbic acid to maintain color. That's actually okay. It's not a thing that's going to harm your dog, but you just make sure it's pure.
And I think a lot of applesauces also include spices sometimes. So that's another thing that you want to watch out for. It's not just the sugar, it's also the other extra things that could go in there. So like Chloe said, just apples.
They like them though.
And another seasonal fruit that your dogs can enjoy are cranberries. I like to think of them as the fall blueberry. They're a good snack because they're just, bite size and you can kind of just throw them to your dog and they can enjoy them as is. But I know Chloe gives her dogs a special frozen treat, which is a special veggie.
Yes. So green beans, it's like that time of year, green bean casserole, all those things are happening. Well, green beans on their own, frozen or raw or cooked. Actually, any of the forms are great. My dogs really like them frozen. There's something about the crunch I think they like. So I buy bags of frozen green beans for treats and just use them all the time. So much so that when I open the freezer door now, they come running.
Yeah, my dogs love the crunch too, so I can see how that's a win. But don't give them green bean casserole. There's too much other stuff in there, so just give them green beans by themselves in any of those forms.
Yeah.
And now on to the biggest thing of the fall season, pumpkin. It's great year round for your dogs, so you can give it to them, but you want to make sure it's raw pumpkin. It's not pumpkin pie filling, it's not pumpkin pie, it's not anything with spices or sugar added to it. It's just raw pumpkin. So when you're looking for your cans, make sure it's just raw pumpkin in a can. You can also buy pie pumpkins and cook those up for your dogs as well. It's a little bit more work than obviously just buying a can, but that's totally possible. And another fun fact is that pumpkin seeds are actually safe for dogs as well. So if you want to roast those up, those can be a fun little holiday treat.
And to stay in the theme of squash-like things, butternut squash is actually something that can be great for your dog, but cook it if you can, only because there are some dogs who have a sensitive digestive tract, and having two dogs with that, I really relate to that statement. And it's easier on their digestive tract if it's cooked. Doesn't mean there aren't dogs that can eat it raw, and it's not going to harm them. It's just a little harder to digest. So cooked butternut squash is a great treat. But again, don't add things to it. It doesn't need butter or salt. Your dogs don't need those types of things. Just a clean, fresh, only butternut squash.
That is definitely a trend you will see here. Don't add anything to it. They'll like it just how nature intended. And again, on that same track are sweet potatoes. And sweet potatoes you do definitely want to cook to make sure that they are safe for your dogs to consume, but don't add any sugar, any marshmallows, any brown sugar, anything to them. Just cook them up. That's a great thing that you can mix in with your dog's meal. So sweet potatoes, pumpkin, and butternut squash, all of the orange foods.
Themed for fall.
Yes.
And not quite in line with the color, but definitely a fall food, especially for Thanksgiving time, is beets. And beets are actually great. And I just learned this in doing research for this. So I'm going to add them to Onyx's meals because he's a dog who has some liver issues. And beets are full of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory ingredients that it just helps. So those things promote liver health and healing, and he's got liver issues. So they're great in that sense, and you can give them to them in any form. Like I know sometimes you get them in cans and stuff. I just am like, oh, I can start slicing up some beets and adding it to his food. So beets are a good colorful addition.
Yes, they're very colorful.
Mm-hmm.
And another veggie that is safe for dogs, so you can give it to them, are Brussels sprouts. It's something that in my adult life I found delicious, whereas as a child I didn't necessarily enjoy it. But I think that's all about the method of cooking. They are another food that's full of a lot of benefits for your dogs. They're not only full of vitamins and fiber, but again, they have antioxidants and can help reduce inflammation. So they're a great food to give to your dog with no salt, no balsamic vinegar, no added anything, but just on their own, roast them up. They'll enjoy them.
And Brussels sprouts are great frozen. That's another frozen treat that I keep in my freezer for my dogs sometimes. So it's crunchy, but yes, like Jessica said, natural. Another thing that I think is popular a lot, but definitely right now, just in treats and in different cooking, is peanut butter. And dogs love peanut butter. It's one of those things and can be a great distraction for them. You'll see people like give it to them in a treat or something because it just they'll lick and lick for a long time. However, you want to make sure there are no added sugars, all the added things again, right? No added sugars, definitely no xylitol. So we always just buy whatever all natural peanut butter there is. Xylitol is the big thing. Just watch for additional stuff. You want to keep it as clean as possible.
If you see a lot more than just peanuts on the ingredient list, it's probably not the peanut butter for your dog.
And they do make special peanut butters just for dogs.
Yeah, and some of them actually have some extra supplements that in them. That's great. And I know my dogs love peanut butter, and it's a great way to kind of distract them during, nail clippings, baths, things like that they don't normally love. An extra layer of peanut butter definitely helps for them. And then the big one, turkey. So many people around Thanksgiving and even into the Christmas holiday make turkey. And turkey by itself is perfectly safe for your dogs. But the problem with turkey is that often we add a lot of other things to it. We add spices, we add onions, we add flavorings. So that's just something to consider, that if you do want your dogs to be able to enjoy a special turkey, maybe buy a small turkey breast so that you can cook it bland, plain, nothing added, so that you can infuse your turkey with spices and other delicious flavorings and enjoy that. Specifically, things you want to look out for are onions and sage. And then with the turkey itself, you want to also avoid bones. Poultry bones, when cooked, are super brittle. They can cause so many health disasters. So do not give your dogs any cooked poultry bones. And then the other big piece to avoid is fatty parts. That can just cause a whole bunch of digestion issues for them. So you want to just avoid any extra fatty parts and really stick to the lean meat for them.
And I think a big takeaway in general from all of this is the idea of table scraps and giving them to your dogs, especially like Jessica said in the beginning, with people coming over who maybe aren't with your dogs all the time and want to feel good about giving them a special treat. You want to avoid any of the food that you prep for yourself because you are seasoning it and you're doing things to it to make it good for you, but that means it's not great for your dog. So think about that as you're cooking. Set aside a couple green beans, set aside a couple beets, set aside any of the things that are acceptable, pumpkin, whatever, for your dog, and have that be a separate little feast for them. And that way you can share without potentially harming them with any spices or fatty things or sugars or stuff that they just shouldn't get because it's going to be hard on their stomachs. It's going to get them sick. We want to avoid episodes of pancreatitis, which is something that can happen when your dog eats things that they shouldn't. Their pancreas freaks out. Then you've got an ill dog, and you don't want that. So keep it happy, keep their little meals a little bit separate, and then you can share and enjoy together, and you each have your own little version of a nice little meal.
And if you have leftovers of the dog's food as well, that's great because you'll have leftovers to eat, and then everyone has leftovers for the week after Thanksgiving. It's perfect. And another main theme is to really just keep everything in moderation. Just because Brussels sprouts and butternut squash and turkey, all natural and plain, are safe for dogs doesn't mean that they should gorge themselves and eat an unlimited amount. We may feel like that sometimes, that we should do that on Thanksgiving, but do as I say and not as I do in this situation. And it's especially true for your dogs to make sure that they enjoy some nice things that they don't normally get, but they aren't having an endless buffet.
Very true. I know my dogs would like an endless buffet, especially Onyx.
Yes, Luna says sign her up.
Yep. They are first in line for that. But yeah, so true. So we hope you took away from this some ways that you can connect with your dog, share food with your dog, but in a safe way, in a way that's best for them, in a healthy way that you can bond with them over this idea, because we do love that. We love sharing things with our dog. So if you have other ideas and other ways in which you share food with your dog, please let us know. We want to expand our knowledge of what kinds of foods are great for us and our dogs to have together.
And if you do have any of those things, leave us a comment so that we know what you're feeding your dogs this holiday season. And if you enjoy watching short videos just like this one, where we talk about the pets, such as dogs, that we all love, then subscribe to our channel so that we show up in your inbox with each latest video.